booktube science fiction reads here with a book haul, a couple of book hauls. I'm going to attach a second book haul to the end of this one that I filmed a couple weeks ago. So let's get into it. First up, we've got Jack Vance's The Star King. This is a part of a series, 4 or 5 books. I have this and 3 others in Daw Yellow Spines. I wasn't sure when I was at the thrift store. There were several Jack Vances and I grabbed most of them. This was the only one I already had. And this is in pretty good shape, so I don't know, it'll sit around until I have a few books to sell as a lot or something maybe. Then we have Chris Morardi, Spin State, an author I think I've heard of him, but I don't know where. Probably BookTube, but this sounds like some hard SF space opera fun. There's a quote on the front that says, "Vivid, sexy, and sharply written. A non-stop white-knuckle tour of quantum physics, AI, and the human heart." Which is a quote from Nicola Griffith, who is an author. A couple of her books were done by Golance in their Masterwork series. I really want to read at least 2 of her books. I haven't really heard anybody talk about her or this author here, so I can't remember now if this is part of a trilogy or not, but it sounds like my kind of thing, maybe a mix of Neil Asher and Alistair Reynolds type stuff. So I'll take a chance on that someday. It's 600 pages, but the text is pretty large, so not as long as it seems. I have a short story collection, Flashing Swords #2 from Lynn Carter. I'm not sure if I'll keep this. I like the idea of finding all of these and reading them because was it this year? Probably last year, I got introduced really to sword and sorcery. And so these would be cool to find and collect. But who do we have in here? I don't think it's much. I think there's only 3 stories. This was published by Dell in 1974. Yeah, we've got an introduction from Lynn Carter. Oh, the first story is Elsbreg de Camp's The Rug and the Bull, who, on Ira's channel, which, well, it went up yesterday. I don't know when this video will go up, but on Ira's channel is the latest of our discussions on the best of, Valentine's best of science fiction or whatever. And we read the best of Elsbreg de Camp, and it was better than I expected. The second story is The Jade Man's Eyes, and then we have Toads of Grimmerdale by Andre Norton. And actually there is a 4th, Ghoul's Garden by John Jakes. So I've only read stories from, all of them except for Andre Norton. So yeah, that might be something worth holding on to. It's got pretty much an uncracked spine despite looking very beat up. Then I found another C.J. Cherryh Yellow Spine. This is The Dreamstone. I can't remember what this one's about. I already had it, but I had a later Daw printing, which is not a Yellow Spine, so I'll just replace that. Plus it's thicker, it's heavier. Somebody wrapped it with contact paper or whatever at some point in the past, so that I will pass along. And add this to the, I changed my angle. I don't know if you can even see them. I got a lot of Yellow Spine C.J. Cherryhs, so happy to put that one on there. A couple more Daw Yellow Spines. This is At the 7th Level from Suzette Hayden Elgin, or Elgin, who I'm sure I bought a book of hers recently and had it in a book haul like a month or so ago. She's an author I want to check out. I don't know what this one's about. I think there's a lot of feminist themes in her writing, unless I'm mixing her up with a different author, but I think that's the case. And this book is in great shape, aside from, you know, a bit of a printing error where it's not quite centered. Then a rougher condition Daw from James H. Schmitz. This is The Telsey Toy. which I already have collected in an omnibus, possibly 2 different omnibuses. I don't know if I'll keep it or not, but he is one of my recently discovered favorite authors. I read everything in his, I can't even think what it's called now, Federation or something series. I did a whole expansive video on it. I can't remember now what the hell it was called. But Telzi is one of the characters who appears throughout many of these stories that are connected in his universe. So it's cool to have a little novel version. It's more like a novella. Yeah, this is from 1973. And yeah, it was originally serialized in analog in 70 and 71. Then I h. Beam Piper's The Fuzzy Papers, which is an omnibus of, I think, 2 books, both of which I have. I have, because this collects, let's see, it collects Little Fuzzy and Fuzzy Sapiens, I believe. I already had Fuzzy Sapiens with a real beat-up spine, and looks like part of another book got stuck. I should probably pull the other H. Beam Piper off that was next to that. Okay, maybe it was just like that. It doesn't look like it came from the book it was next to. But, yeah, that's weird. Anyway, I will be getting rid of that. I couldn't resist this Futura Publishing copy. It says Orbit Books, but it also says Futura. It's just a really nice looking vintage paperback with an uncracked spine. So I like that. Plus the second story, well, it's the first in this collection, The Fuzzy Papers, or Little Fuzzy. I think I have that as a book club or something, so probably get rid of it if that's the case, and add this to my quite large collection of H. Beam Piper books, despite having not read anything by him yet. That is something I should get around to next year. Another book I already had, but I could not resist such a good conditioned UK copy. That's Ian Watson's Alien Embassy from Granada, Panther Granada, about I think making contact with the alien races with these humans who have been trained to astral project their consciousness. I had a thicker Ace copy that has this, you know, the little sock cut or remainder cut, whatever that is at the bottom. Still haven't read it. Both interesting cover arts, but I'm replacing that one with the new one. Then the sequel to Larry Niven's The Moat in God's Eye. I needed one more book from this thrift store to get one for free, so I grabbed this thinking it was in much better shape than the one I had, but they're basically identical, so that's another one I'll get rid of. And now some Jack Vance, The Languages of Pow. These are newer Tor releases in great shape. Don't know much about these. I'm pretty underread with Jack Vance. I've read, I think, 3 novels, 2 of which were an Ace double, so that's more like 2 novellas. And I read the first 1 or 2 Dying Earth books. So another author I should get to this coming year. And also to go with that is To Live Forever, also from Tor. Let's see if these are reprints. I would think they are. Yeah, this is copyright 56, and this copy is from 93. Okay, now this next one is interesting, and I did a little bit of research on this. This is from Ernest M. Kenyon, Rogue Gollum. And if you're not familiar with that author, that's because this is the only book he published. And this came out in, let's see here, 1977. Aside from this, I think the only other thing he had published was a short story in the 50s in one of the magazines. I picked it up because it is about a character coming to find out that he's an android and presumably being hunted down for it. I love the cover art. So I just thought that was cool, but the fact that it's called Rogue Golem, I assume, I haven't done too much research, that in this universe, androids are referred to as golems. And if that's the case, the only other place I've come across that is Neil Asher's massive Polity universe. His AI androids and his depiction of androids are probably my favorite. His AIs are probably my favorite, but they're referred to as golems, and I always thought, God, that's such a great name for androids. And possibly this author beat him to that concept. Another reason I picked this up is because it's actually signed, I think, to Bill and Danny, or Bill and Davis. Best wishes from Ernie K. So that's cool to have a signed book from the only, it's the only thing he wrote. And there was also a little piece of paper that says "Hold for Kenyon." I don't know what that exactly means, but I thought that was pretty cool. I will hold on to this and give it a read. It's from Popular Library, 1977, I think I said. Love the cover art, love the title, love the concept, even though it's been done to death. Love that it's the only thing he wrote and that it's signed. That's pretty neat. A strange, strange curio. Another one I was thrilled to find at a little quasi bookstore that popped up in my neighborhood a couple years ago. That's mostly British themed paraphernalia. It's actually called Paraphernalia Books, or Paraphernalia and Books. But she actually takes the time. She has lots of books, but she actually has a science fiction fantasy section. And I found John Steakley's Vampires. Famously, he wrote 2 books, Armor, which I think is much better known, which Grammaticus Books did a good review of that recently. And he wrote this, which was turned into a apparently not very good adaptation by, I can't think of the name now. I think John Woods was the main character, but yeah. This is about the Christian church sponsoring a group of vampire hunters, and it's one of those books where by the end, everybody's dead, except maybe 1 or 2 people, but I love books where everybody dies by the end. It's just neat. So I'm thrilled to find this because I'm very curious about both of his books. I believe the main character from one makes an appearance in this or something. The main character from Armor, maybe? There's some kind of little Easter egg that connects them. But yeah, the guy only wrote 2 books. Armor, which says right here, was a best-selling book, and then Vampires, which was adapted into a movie. So strange that he only wrote 2, and that they were apparently both well-received. Anyways, I love the concept of, Christian church-sponsored Van Helsing people. And this I spoke about in my recent reads video. It's a tour double. I read and mostly enjoyed Brian Aldiss's The Saliva Tree. And then on the other side, we've got Silverberg's Born with the Dead, which I have not read yet, but I will read by the end of the year so I can check it off my Goodreads reading challenge. Saliva Tree was good. Silverberg, at least a quote I saw on the Wikipedia page for this story, says it's one of the hardest things he had to write, which is super intriguing. I've got a nice Berkeley paperback of God Emperor of Dune. Still never read Dune. And this is in pretty good shape, so I picked it up. When will I ever get to Dune? I have no idea. But I do like having old paperbacks of, these famous popular books. I had a modern copy of Dune for years, and I recently replaced it with a nice, I think it's Ace. It doesn't match the Berkeley, unfortunately, but and it's got the most excellent cover art. Another one I was happy to find, the Science Fiction Hall of Fame, Volume 2B. I have Volume 1 and 1A. I can't remember off the top of my head if that's it. I think it might be it for the books in this livery. So it's got a real beat up, cracked spine, but otherwise it's pretty solid. And of course, just full of absolute gems. This is novellas. Just show the list there. I'm happy to have that and complete the collection of the 3, if there is only 3, but they're not in the greatest shape. Then I've got Kurt Vonnegut's Galapagos. I've never read any Kurt Vonnegut. His style and his, I mean, I can't say for sure because I haven't read anything of his, but his style and a lot of the synopsis and plots for his stuff just does not sound of interest to me. But this one has been of interest for quite a while when I first heard somebody talking about it or came across it somehow. It's about some kind of ecological collapse that basically destroys society worldwide, and we have a few survivors who make it to a fictional island in the Galapagos. And it's the story of them and their descendants and what humanity becomes derived from this small colony. But it's from the point of view of a dead human's consciousness over the course of 1 million years. The narrator is this consciousness who's basically just observing this small colony of survivors for 1 million years. I don't know anything about Kurt Vonnegut, except that he has a recurring character in a lot of his books, and the consciousness in this is that character's son. I don't know anything about that, but it does sound curious. It's got a wild, flashy cover, but the concept for this sounds really cool. Then I've got Sheila McLeod's Xanth and the Robots, which sounds like it's some kind of dystopia where there's still some sort of society functioning, but a female scientist who works on programming AI. But the reviews are few and polarizing online, so might not be much of a good book, but it certainly looks and sounds appealing. This is an old, I don't know what this is. Is it Penguin? Yes, it's Penguin. Penguin science fiction from 1977. So I might as well switch to this. Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough's False Dawn, which, if I remember correctly, was also from 77? 78. So I just found this recently, and it was in my most recent reads video I just put up. I really enjoyed it. At first, I was disappointed by it, but the more time that passes, I'm still thinking about this. I read it in about 24 hours. It's just a post-apocalyptic road trip. Very dark, very depressing. No real plot and no ending. But as I spoke in my last video about it, something about the environment, or the author's prose and the characters, I ended up enjoying it more than I thought. I'm still thinking about it. I even feel like rereading it, as bleak as it is. So I need to find some more Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough, because this was really good. And that was a book club. I have another book club here. This one is Beat Up. This is F.M. Busby or Busby's Cage a Man. I have a growing collection of his paperbacks, most of which involve the same family of characters and the same universe. Don't believe this is part of that. I think this is a standalone about some human being thrown into the future, I guess with some kind of freaky looking lobster-like society or something. Yeah, I think the character wakes up in the future and there's this alien race that wants to remake humans into their own image or something, which is pretty disturbing. I don't know if I'll keep this because it's in such rough shape, but probably I'll hold on to it until I give it a try. Then I found another Silverberg. This is To Live Again, published by Dell. In pretty good shape aside from, again, a misaligned spine. I believe this involves the consciousness of dead people being used, or that you can buy them and use them or something, and it kind of focuses on the consciousness of somebody who was once the richest and most powerful man on earth. Now he was the prize in a gigantic game of violence, sex, and treachery. Of course there'd be sex in a Silverberg book. For Paul Kaufman was dead. His soul was stored in the Shefflin Institute, waiting for the time when it would be awarded to the person judged strong enough to use his mind and memory. This was future Earth, where the dead were slaves to the living, until at last a man arose to lead them in rebellion. I'm not sure if I would have thought that sounded all that great until I've actually started reading Silverberg and realize his stuff is incredible. So looking forward to this one. This was published in '69, so right in his heyday, but this copy from Dell is from 1971. And then one last book. This was a curio. The Oxford Book of Science Fiction Stories, compiled by Tom Shippey. Quite large. And it has a quote from Ian Banks: "As good an introduction to SF as you can buy." I'm not sure why it should say Ian M. Banks, right? If he's talking about science fiction. This was published in 1992, I believe. And yeah, it is full of lots of good stuff. I see a story in here from Thomas M. Dish that looks pretty short. I should probably read it since I really enjoyed the one book of his I've read. But there's a lot. I don't want to go through them all, but I think I'll hold on to this one. And yeah, that rounds it out. So I think after this, I'm going to attach a second book haul from a couple weeks ago. So I'll see you in that one. All right, I've got 2 stacks of books. The first several are from Norm at the bookstore on Pluto. And I'm going to start with some Daw Yellow Spines. This is C.J. Cherry's Brothers of Earth, which I already had. And this is the one I already had. I already replaced it. I got a slightly better copy with a better spine than this. I'm basically collecting all the C.J. Cherries that were released by Daw in this time. And a lot of her stuff was released by Daw after they got rid of the yellow livery. So I'm just collecting C.J. Cherry, having only really read a few of her books many years ago. So could be a big mistake, but I like collecting her stuff. Then I got a really beat up book here by David J. Lake, Walkers on the Sky. This came from Norm's $1 or $2 bin, which is books that are readable. They're not falling apart, but they're in rough shape. I don't know much about this, except that it's part of either a trilogy or just 3 books that take place in the same universe, so they're kind of connected. The other one I have is more appealing, but I didn't want to read it until I have all 3. I think they deal with alien biology and plant life on another planet kind of thing. I can't remember. I'm not going to sit here and read it all, but we get an illustration in this one, as we do with most. I haven't read anything by David J. Lake. I've just been aware of these books of his from Daw for a while now. This is from 1976. Yeah, the cover art for all 3 of them caught my eye, so now I've got 2 out of the 3. And then this was just a cover art purchase. I've wanted this book ever since I saw the cover art. I know very little about it. It's The City Machine by Louis Trimble, another author I've not read, but I absolutely love it. I believe it involves colonizing another world. Yeah, if you want to read the synopsis, I'll put that up there. And we get a picture in this one too. I like that. This one's from 1972. Yeah, I just really like, you know, an old cabin, somebody breaking through the ice to get some water, and then in the background you've got modern high-tech clashing with the foreground of simpler times past. Love it. And then one more. I don't think I even opened this yet. A Quest for Symbolists. This did not come from the $1 or $2 bin. And he may have given me a bit of a deal on it. This is immaculate. I mean, it's got a little bit of rubbing on the sides, but it's so good. This is A Quest for Symbolis is a story that takes place in Jack Vance's Dying Earth setting. So we've got some very cool art there, like an immaculate spine. Back is great. Now I wanted this because I read Michael Shea's Nift the Lean, which was a Da. Is that a Da? It is a Da. This is a hard to find and often expensive when you do find it. This is also in immaculate shape other than sticker residue, which I'll get off one day. But I read this and absolutely loved it. And so I wanted more by Michael Shea, but he's not easy to find. But yeah, Norm found this and I jumped on it. This is from, well, first of all, it's got a really nice illustration. I like that. This is from 1974. Yeah, first printing. Very excited to read that. I don't know when I'll get around to it, but I'm very happy to have it. We've got a Philip Jose Farmer who's been hit or miss for me. This one was cheap on Norm's website. Usually when I'm buying stuff from him, I can't resist throwing in some cheap ones. It does sound pretty wild about weird cultural practices or something taking place in another world and the main character gets mixed into it. But it also has the kind of synopsis when pairing it with an author like this where it's either going to be great or terrible. But this is a Berkeley, and it feels and looks in really great shape. This is from, well, actually, it first appeared, or a shorter version appeared in the Fantasy and Science Fiction magazine in '57. But this is a second printing from Berkeley, 1966. And that's got to be a Richard Powers cover art, I would imagine. Two I'm quite excited about. Henry Kuttner, Will of the Worlds, and this is a small ace paperback. I have four others, and now two I'm going to show you here. So I've got 6 of his in small paperbacks now by Ace, which I really like. This is from 1952. Hard to believe. Uncracked spine. Excellent, excellent cover art. Not sure if they give credit in these. Yeah, cover by Alex Schwamberg. And he may have done the next one here. We've got Earth's Last Citadel by C.L. Moore and Henry Kuttner. The only Kuttner I've read is collaborations with his wife, C.L. Moore, and one story he co-wrote in here, which I didn't realize until after I'd read it. So I'm looking forward to getting to him, but I think I'm just going to wait until Richard Ira and I read the best of Henry Kuttner, because that's been my favorite way to discover a lot of these authors from this time period. So Earth's Last Citadel, this is from, well, copyright 1943. I don't know when these 2 Ace books came out, which it's kind of annoying that they don't say, but there's a little illustration at the start there. And again, uncracked spine. Very happy to have that for the Kuttner and Moore collection. A Robert Silverberg short story collection, Unfamiliar Territory. I recently really started enjoying Silverberg. Couldn't remember why I put him off so long, but then I remembered it was his book, Kingdoms of the Wall, was the first novel of his I tried, and I DNF'd it. And that gave me the wrong opinion of his writing for several years. But now I'm obsessed. You're going to see a lot of Silverberg. Anytime I can find them, there's going to be a lot of Silverberg in upcoming book hauls. And then a book I did not need. It's an omnibus of 2 books I already had, but something about this immaculate, weird omnibus I just had to have. It's a Poul Anderson, The People of the Wind and The Day of Their Return. I once sold a People of the Wind copy from Hale SF for $50 to the actor Paul Giamatti, who some may know is a science fiction fan, a big Philip K. Dick fan. But he bought that off me off eBay, which I thought was really cool. Something about the cover art, the color of the cover, and the galaxy behind it just really appealed to me. Plus, it's just a weird curio, this signet with this just god-awful advertisement on the top for how much it cost. But it does have the unbroken spine, so I just took the 2 paperbacks off my shelf and donated them. Or maybe they're sitting over there somewhere waiting to be donated or something, but I don't know. This just really appealed to me, and the fact that it's in such great shape. This omnibus is from 1982, and the 2 stories are from 73 and 75. And the last that came from Norm is an ace double. I'll show you the side that I was not interested in, and thankfully it's the side that has old marker on it. That's a Kenneth Balmer. But I picked this up for the Brian Stableford because I do love Brian Stableford. I've got some more of his stuff coming up. This is an ace book, which I'm not a big fan of. At least it's one of the bigger sized ones, but yeah, I don't know anything about Cradle of the Sun. I've probably looked it up in the past, but I don't remember anymore. Interesting cover art though. And again, with old aces, you also often get just a little illustration. The story, and I assume the book as well, is copyright 1969. All right, next up, books I've just found in the wild. No, this one I bought online because I found it for super cheap. I can't remember who was talking about these stories, but there's like a loose trilogy of these, and then this one was written later or something and takes place beforehand. It's Michael Coney's, I think this series is called Songs of Earth or something. Yeah, the Songs of Earth. Volume 1 is the Celestial Steam Locomotive, and Volume 2 is Gods of the Great Away. I used to have both in hardcover book club. I have at least one still. But this, chronologically or something, takes place before the other 3. I don't know much about it, but it is in great shape. It involves a lot of post-human genetic creatures running around. And it sounds like it could be really good or terrible. But it'll probably be the first Michael Coney that I read. Then this awesome-looking Brian Stableford trilogy, which is just massive. It's basically some kind of supernatural / urban fantasy, I guess. Starts with The Werewolves of London. These are from Pan. This one is actually in nice shape. The next 2 are not. It's kind of like a historical fantasy or something. It would be hard to describe, but it starts in the 1800s. Starts in 1872, and the last one, I believe, ends in the 1920s. And they just sounded interesting, but they're pretty big, and considering I'm suffering from very little sleep lately, I don't think I'll be reading them anytime soon. But happy to have them. I have such a massive Brian Stableford collection at this point. The Angel of Pain is the second one by Pan. And then the third is The Carnival of Destruction, which has a very sun-faded spine, but otherwise they sound really interesting. Although I think the next Stableford I read will probably be the awesome-sounding The Empire of Fear, a alternate history vampire story that I learned about from John at Sci-Fi Scavenger, and I just had to have the same copy because it's amazing looking. We got a Moorcock here, The Vanishing Tower, which is the 4th Elric novel, but was previously released as The Sleeping Sorceress. Now, I've read Moorcock's first Coram trilogy, and it was meh to me. I'm going to read some Elric at some point. That'll be the next Moorcock I read, and if I don't enjoy it, then I guess I'll just have a bunch of Moorcock books to get rid of. But still waiting to be sold on his writing and his Eternal Champion stuff. This copy is from 1970. It's got a worn cover and a very sun-faded back cover, but the spine is perfect. And here's a weird one, a novelization of a movie, which is not something I would normally buy. I have not seen the movie, but it's Lady Hawk by Joan D. Vinci, which I guess starred Matthew Broderick. When I pulled this off the shelf, I thought, I have never heard of Lady Hawk, but I do know that she wrote some movie book tie-ins or adaptations, so I figured that's what it would be. And then, of course, Ferris Bueller's right on the cover. It's on eBay for a decent little price, but I imagine it's not actually selling for that price, but it was $1 or $1.70, I think, so I picked it up. It's in pretty great shape. Will I read it? I highly doubt it. I'd have to read it and watch the movie. It does have Rutger Hauer in it, and there's actually some pictures from the movie in there. So just one of those curios. There's actually another Michael Moorcock here. This is a massive omnibus with illustrations throughout. This is from Avon and the Cornelius Chronicles. We've got The Final Program, A Cure for Cancer, The English Assassin, and The Condition of Muzak. I don't think this particular character in these stories would be for me, having looked them up in the past. But this was also $1.70. I don't know if I'll keep it or what, but it does have a lot of illustrations throughout it. And I don't know, I just thought it's the thing I might pass along or sell at some point. Curious. Two more. A total random here. I've never read anything by Paul O. Williams, but this is The Breaking of North Wall. I have vague memories of looking into this series. It's, I believe, 6 books, and I have 1 or 2. So now I have 2 or 3. Some kind of far future after societal collapse. Lots of different kingdoms running around in North America, I think. And it just sounded interesting. So when I see them, I pick them up. I know I've got at least 2 now. And then the last book, I already have this in hardcover. I don't think I have a paperback, and this was immaculate condition, or so I thought. Got some, does that come up? Not really. Severely bent pages, but this is 3 Hearts and 3 Lions by Poul Anderson. I've got a book club edition of it, but since it's almost perfect condition, it certainly looks nice, uncracked spine, I picked that up because I don't believe I have a paperback of it. But that's all I've found lately. As always, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.